Hey folks, what we're looking at here is a piece of wood. I'm going to try to make something nice out of this. Since it is Christmas, I thought it'd be kind of cool to make a Christmas gift. So, I'm going to give it a shot. This was actually sent to me, like a year and a half ago or something, from somebody that I knew over the internet, and in hopes that I can make a coffee table out of it. It's not really the proper type of material to make a coffee table, so, and since it's been so long and there's not been any communication to speak of since then, I'm going to take this chunk of wood and try to turn it into a shelf. It is warped. You can see the table's flat. It's sitting on a table saw. But the wood is actually warped. It's white pine, and it's laminated, or it's biscuit jointed together. So I'm going to cut this in half and see if there's enough material. Enough material here to make a shelf. So it's 2 foot wide. I've got the been set at 12 inches. I'm going to cut it right in half, and I'm going to raise my blade. Now, if you've never used a table saw before, you really don't want the blade sticking up much more than what you really need it to be. It just becomes a safety hazard. If it's up higher and your hand gets close to it, you're probably going to lose a finger. So nobody wants to do that. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to raise it just a touch more because it's warped. And I think we're good. So let's fire this thing up and make a cut. If that wasn't too crazy loud for you, and I hope you can hear me talking. Nice clean cut, even through that heavy knot right there. Very smooth. So now we've got 2 blanks for a shelf. Now I'm only going to make 1 shelf because I'll have to use material out of one or the other pieces here for the gussets and the part that hangs it on the wall. But these are way too thick, so we've got to plane them down, and that's what we're getting ready to do next. Okay, so I got the planer set up here. Well, partially set up, I guess. I've still got to set the depth and thickness and everything. But I wanted to show you, yeah, you kind of got to use hearing protection when you're running one of these. Really should with any kind of woodworking equipment. This thing is incredibly loud, and you see the hose is kind of haphazardly run up there, and you can see where it sticks out the window over there. That's where the shavings are going to come out. I kind of put it that way so that you could see this. There's actually a vacuum built inside this thing that sucks the shavings out of there. Now, with this particular planer, it has a gauge right here on the front. Let me get it raised up. See this little needle right here? And that's showing you what it's going to take off. Well, I don't want to take a whole bunch off there yet. And I'm just going to get it to where it just barely moves. And that's how much I'm going to take off. So, hearing protection. You really should use eye protection. I don't have my safety glasses here with me. So, I'm just going to try that anyway. This is probably going to be loud, so you probably won't hear me talking. Okay, so you get the idea. I run both pieces through to get that initial thickness. Then I drop it about an 1/8 inch or something, and I flip them over. Now normally you wouldn't do that if you're doing rough cut lumber. Rough cut lumber sometimes has a big cup in it, so you want to get your cup facing up to where you can get a nice flat spot on the top. Then you flip it over and you take off those cupped edges and you get it all down. But anyway, I'm going to run this all down to 3/4 of an inch, and you don't need to see that. It's just going to be the same thing. Loud and annoying, but we'll check back in after that's done. So I decided to stop at 7/8 of an inch on both of them. Not for any particular reason, but 7/8 is just a little bit better to work with than 3/4. Plus I got sanding to do on this after everything's put together. You can see right there, 7/8 of an inch. And this particular planer has a finish plane on it. This is for rough cut, and this is for finishing. You can see 96 cuts per inch, 179 cuts per inch. So on my last pass, I switched it over to the finish, and I run them through, both of them, flipped them over, adjusted it again, and then run them through. So they got that. Didn't really need to do that, especially with pine. Pine is very soft and it's simple, easy to sand. But you know, I never tried that feature yet, so I gave it a shot, and well, it did a great job. It actually feels like it's sanded now. So now I got to do some measuring and figure out what I've got to work with. Okay, so after measuring everything, I've decided that I'm going to keep the shelf a full 1 foot deep. So I'm going to make one shelf, and the other one of these is going to be used for the framing in it. And instead of putting this on the chop saw, I'm going to show you guys something to do with the table saw here. First you have to bring the blade up to where you want it, like I talked about a minute ago. Right around there. That's pretty good. I'm going to use my miter cut here. This thing, you can loosen it and you can cut angles. You know, you can cut whatever your degree is that you want to cut. But I want to show you guys something really cool about how to square this up if you want to make a square cut. Now this one does have a set that I can flip this. Can you see what I'm doing? This little tab right here. If you flip that tab up and you run this set screw over, you tighten it down, that's already 90 degrees. But let's say you don't have that, or your set screw is messed up, excuse me, and you're all messed around there, and you want to get it set to 90 degrees. Really simple way to do that is put it in upside down and put it right up against your table here. And as long as everything is touching, this is already set to 90 degrees on your guide. You tighten it down, you pull it out, and then you're good to go. That's 90 degrees. See my little pen? Where are we at? Little pen's pointing right at 90. So we're good to go on 90 degrees. Let me check it again. And looks good. Okay, so I'm going to try to cut this here. Try to square off this edge, and there's a screw hole here actually that I'm going to try to take out. So let's give that a shot. Oh wait, better get my hearing protection on here. One of these. Okay, fire in the hole. And there you go. You got perfect square flush cuts. Kind of got away from me there on that last cut a little bit. It caught on my hip, but that's good to go. So now I've got the other piece here, and I'm going to cut out the piece that goes against the wall, the back piece, and I've got it set to 4 inches. I think that'd be kind of cool because a 12-inch shelf with some measurement of 12 or some dividend of 12, usually looks kind of good. So I'm going 4 inches, and then with the leftover, I'll cut out the gussets. So let's go ahead and get this going. And there's that. That's a good cut. Also, there's a push stick, so you can keep your fingers away from that blade. And I think this goes to 3/8 inch thick, so you can cut that close. Generally, I would have just used my hand, but I wanted to show everybody how to use the push stick. And if I hit that with a blade, if something snags and I get jerked around, or if I kick the saw or something, that thing's getting cut and not my fingers. And I think fingers are a little harder to grow back. Okay, so I'm about to cut this back piece down to length. I got a little mark on here, and I wanted to point out something here. I'm going to use the rip guide, or the crosscut guide on that, the miter guide. But I wanted to talk about something. If you just put this right up against the fence, you can go through and cut it. You could probably get a good cut. But if you move this just a little bit, you're putting one heck of a bind on that blade, and this thing could break off and come flying at you. I don't know what RPM the blade spins at, but I'm sure it's a lot, and I don't want to be in between that. I actually know a friend who tried to do that, and he was cutting and it flipped over. The board kicked out and took his hand right into the blade, and he's permanently scarred for the rest of his life right through there. So we're gonna get the fence clear out of the way, and we're gonna line this up and make that cut right there. So hearing protection on. Now, even while that's winding down, this still could bounce around and get caught in there and get flung at you. So you got to be real careful, and you got to pay attention to what you're doing with stuff like this. I've done this for a long time, and I do feel pretty confident, but I'm not immune from mistakes or accidents or anything like that. That could happen to me just as simple as somebody the first time ever running a saw. So you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. You always have to watch it. You can't become complacent. Now on to the next step. So I got the gussets cut out, and everything is just kind of hanging here. And I think you can get the idea of how this is going to be. It's going to be a very deep shelf. This way is the wall, and that way is looking up. But in order to just have it kind of sitting here, to kind of show you guys what I'm looking at. Now I got to do some bandsaw cutting. Got to router, or round these edges over. And then if I have time, I'll put the router on it tonight and get it sanded down and maybe get it put together. Got to get my glue. I don't keep my glue out here in the wood shop because it does freeze out here, and you're not supposed to let your wood glue freeze. So anyway, that's sort of what it's going to look like when it gets when it's put together. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. Yeah, it looks like it's showing up. See that little curve right there? Put a radius on that. These are the two gussets. They're going to hold the shelf upright. I'm going to cut this out right here with a bandsaw. Now the first thing to do is you don't need this much blade sticking up. So I'm going to drop it down to where it's just about enough and I can still see the blade. That would be all the way down, but I don't want it all the way down. I want to bring it up just a little bit, maybe a 1/4 inch or something. And that should do it. So, and you don't really need hearing protection while you're doing this, but it might be a good idea to do it, but I'm not going to here. So, see if we can do this. There you go. Want to round it over. See that? That's something you don't want to mess with. And I'll show you on this next one here. Excuse me. There's something I should have done that I kind of forgot about. Put relief cuts so that you don't have to make that tight bend on that blade. You really don't need more than that for that small of a radius. But just for showing. Okay, there we go. Now let's get her cut out there. There you go. There's a radius. Now you don't really have to worry about all those grooves. Sorry. You don't really have to worry about all that stuff there because it's going to be sanded down and it'll probably be routered. I haven't decided if I'm going to... Well, I'm going to router it anyway, but yeah, I got to figure out which part to router. You can see I have an up root there, so I know which side is which. And that's kind of a good thing to do, is mark your pieces so you know which way they're going. And this right here is scratches that I got from that miter guide on the table saw. It had a little burr on it, and I didn't realize it when I run it across there. So, but anyway, that's not going to matter. It's all going to get sanded down anyhow. Okay, so I got everything kind of sanded down and shaped up pretty good. The corners are nice and rounded over and everything. And I got the router out, and I'm going to try to round over this edge. Generally, I love a router table where the router is vertical, and well, you're looking at that, I guess. Then you run your board across your cutters. But this is another way to do it. I usually like to have clamps to where I can hold this down, but I don't have clamps. So I'm going to try it this way. Well, I'm sure you probably didn't get to see that very well, but that's the cope that I put into it there. Then, you know, it's looking okay. Can you even see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay, you can see it there. You can see the shape. Whoa, where are we at? Yeah, you can see the shape that I put in it. And I'm going to put that all the way around that part and then around specific other pieces. Now, anyway, I won't make you watch that since it's loud and annoying, but yeah, it's working. Okay, so I finished routering everything, the top piece here, and I kind of just decided, since it marries up nice and flat here, it looks kind of good. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, I did sand everything one more time, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to leave it at this. And I thought about cutting in a fancy design here, but I kind of like the way it is. So I think I'm going to leave it like this. Now I just have to glue everything and pop a couple brad nails in there, and I'm sure it'll be just fine. And it should be ready to go. So this is a Christmas gift for my mother, actually. She was wanting a shelf, so I hope she likes it. And I guess I'll say Merry Christmas to everybody watching. Hope everybody has a safe holiday and a safe and happy New Year. And I appreciate everybody watching. On that, I will say, have a good one.